Picture this. You are standing in the middle of the African savanna. The grass is golden and dry, reaching up to your waist in places. The air is hot and thick, and somewhere out there, maybe 50 meters away, maybe 30, a cheetah has fixed its gaze on you, not on the gazelle to your left, not on the impala grazing nearby, on you. Its ears are pressed flat, its body is low to the ground, its tail is twitching in that slow, deliberate way that tells you something has already been decided. And every single instinct in your body is screaming the same word: run. And that is exactly the problem. Because the moment you run, you have just handed that animal the most powerful weapon it has. Not its claws, not its teeth. You have handed it your own panic. And a cheetah that has triggered panic in its prey has already, in almost every meaningful sense, won. If you find this kind of deep, uncomfortable knowledge about the natural world as fascinating as we do, stick around. Hit subscribe, because what we are about to get into goes far beyond a simple chase scene. This is about anatomy, neuroscience, evolutionary strategy, deception, exhaustion, and the cold, precise mathematics of predation. This is the full story of what a cheetah actually is, what it actually does, and why your most natural response to it is the single worst thing you could possibly do. Let us start at the beginning. Let us start with speed, because speed is the thing everyone associates with the cheetah, and also the thing that is most fundamentally misunderstood. Yes, the cheetah is the fastest land animal on Earth. That is not in dispute. A cheetah at full sprint has been clocked at just over 112 kilometers per hour in the wild. In controlled conditions, a female cheetah named Sarah at the Cincinnati Zoo ran 100 meters in 5.95 seconds. For comparison, Usain Bolt's world record is 9.58 seconds. Sarah was running at a pace that Bolt, the fastest human who has ever lived, could not come remotely close to. A cheetah is not slightly faster than a person. It is not twice as fast. It is operating in an entirely different physical category. But here is the thing about that speed that nobody tells you. It is enormously expensive. It burns through the cheetah's energy reserves at a rate that is almost catastrophic. A cheetah running at full speed is consuming oxygen faster than its body can supply it. It is essentially holding its breath at a physiological level, drawing on stored ATP and phosphocreatine for the first few seconds before switching to anaerobic glycolysis, which floods its muscles with lactic acid at a ferocious rate. Within seconds, the heat generated by those contracting muscles causes its core temperature to begin climbing. Within 10 to 15 seconds of a full-speed sprint, a cheetah's internal temperature can rise by as much as 1 degree Celsius. If it keeps running, that temperature continues to climb. If it hits 40 degrees or above, the cheetah faces a genuine risk of neurological damage. Its brain starts to shut down non-essential processes. Its coordination begins to degrade. This is why the average cheetah chase lasts between 3 and 5 seconds at full speed. Not minutes, not even half a minute at the absolute outside. Seconds. Scientists who have tracked wild cheetahs using GPS collars and accelerometers have found that the median duration of a high-speed sprint is closer to 3 seconds than 5. In a study published in the journal Nature, researchers Alan Wilson and his team at the Royal Veterinary College fitted wild cheetahs in Botswana with custom-built tracking devices and found that the average chase covered somewhere between 100 and 300 meters, with the cheetah reaching top speed only in short bursts within that chase. The cheetah is not built for pursuit. It is built for a single, devastating surgical strike. And that changes everything about how it hunts. A cheetah does not work like a wolf. Wolves are pursuit predators. They wear prey down over long distances, rotating through pack members, maintaining pressure across hours if necessary, waiting for exhaustion or injury to create the opening. A cheetah operates on a completely different strategic model. It works like a sprinter who has studied the starting blocks, timed the gun, and learned every micro-expression of the starter's face. The cheetah's success depends almost entirely on what happens before the chase begins. Cheetahs hunt during daylight. Unlike most big cats, which rely on darkness and ambush, the cheetah has evolved to use its eyes. Its vision is extraordinary. The cheetah has a high density of ganglion cells in a horizontal band across its retina, a feature called a visual streak, which gives it an exceptionally wide and sharp field of view across the horizon. It can spot movement at distances that would challenge a pair of binoculars. It can track a single gazelle across 400 meters of open grassland and not lose it, even as the herd shifts and swirls. And it does not just see the movement, it processes it, it reads it. Because the most important thing a cheetah assesses during its long, patient stalk is not speed, it is gait. It is watching for the limping animal, the one that breaks rhythm on its left foreleg every third stride, the one that is slightly older and whose hindquarters drop a fraction lower than its neighbors when it turns. It is watching for vulnerability, for a weakness that the prey animal itself may not even be fully aware of. A cheetah will watch a herd for 30 minutes, sometimes longer, without moving. Sometimes it will actually approach to within 50 or 60 meters before selecting a target, walking in plain sight, slowly, not crouching, because it has learned that prey animals often interpret a slow, unhurried approach as less threatening than a sudden stillness. And then it waits. It waits for one specific animal to separate, even slightly, from the group, for a gap to open, for a moment of distraction, and then it launches. Not from where it is standing, from a point of deception. Cheetahs will often use a subtle behavior that researchers call a creep approach, lowering their profile, using grass or termite mounds or even other animals as visual cover, getting as close as possible before the sprint begins. Because every meter they do not have to cover at full speed is energy conserved and temperature controlled. Their ideal launch distance is within 20 to 40 meters of the target. From 40 meters, a cheetah reaches its prey in under 2 seconds at full speed. Now here is where your running problem enters the picture with full force. When that chase begins, what determines the outcome is not whether you are fast. No human is fast enough to escape a cheetah at full sprint. No gazelle is fast enough to outrun a cheetah at full sprint. The fastest recorded Thompson's gazelle reaches somewhere around 80 kilometers per hour, and even it cannot simply outrun the cheetah in a straight line over a short distance. What saves the gazelle, and this is the key, this is the entire point, is not its speed, it is its turning. In that same Royal Veterinary College study, Wilson's team made a discovery that fundamentally reframed how scientists think about cheetah hunting. When they analyzed the GPS data from wild cheetahs during actual hunts, they found something counterintuitive. The cheetah's top speed during hunts was often not as high as the maximum recorded in other contexts. The cheetahs were not always sprinting as fast as they possibly could. Why? Because they were managing their speed to maintain maneuverability. They were slowing into turns. They were decelerating before a direction change. Because a cheetah, cornering at full speed, is a cheetah that overshoots its target, loses its footing, and potentially injures itself. And what were the prey animals doing? They were turning. They were cutting hard, left and right, forcing the cheetah to react, to decelerate, to spend energy on steering, rather than pure acceleration. The gazelle that runs in a straight line dies. The gazelle that jinks and cuts and changes direction unpredictably gives the cheetah a problem that its extraordinary speed cannot fully solve. Every sharp turn the prey makes forces the cheetah to burn more energy, generate more heat, and spend more time. And time is the one resource the cheetah cannot afford to waste. A cheetah that has been chasing for more than 20 to 30 seconds is already in physiological trouble. Its body temperature is climbing. Its lactic acid levels are rising. Its coordination is beginning to degrade. And here is something truly remarkable. A cheetah that catches its prey after a long chase faces a serious secondary problem. It may be too exhausted to actually eat. This is not metaphor. This is documented field observation. Researchers in the Serengeti and in the Kalahari have repeatedly observed cheetahs catching their prey and then simply lying next to them, panting, for 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes before they can begin feeding. Their respiratory rate spikes to over 150 breaths per minute. Their body temperature is so high that they need to dissipate heat before they can eat, and during those precious minutes, they are completely vulnerable. Hyenas, lions, leopards, even large groups of vultures and jackals can steal the kill before the cheetah has recovered enough to defend it. Studies suggest that cheetahs lose somewhere between 10 to 15% of their kills to kleptoparasitism, and a significant portion of those losses happen during that post-chase recovery period when the cheetah is simply too depleted to fight back. So every second of unnecessary chase is not just energetically expensive, it is existentially risky. This is why the cheetah is designed, at every level, to prevent long chases. Its whole anatomy is built around ending things quickly. Look at the cheetah's body in detail, and what you see is not just speed. You see a machine optimized for the single decisive moment of contact. Its legs are long and lean, with muscle fibers composed predominantly of fast-twitch glycolytic fibers, the kind that fire explosively but fatigue rapidly. Its shoulder blades are not attached to its collarbone, which allows them to swing with each stride like additional levers, extending its reach. Its spine is a remarkable feat of biological engineering. It flexes and extends with each stride in a pronounced dorsoventral curve, functioning almost like a compressed spring that releases and reloads with every footfall. When a cheetah runs, its spine extends so dramatically that at certain moments all four of its feet are in the air at once, not because it is leaping, but because the extension of the spine propels it that distance. At other moments, all 4 feet land simultaneously beneath the body. The stride frequency and length together produce a contact time with the ground of mere milliseconds. The cheetah does not run so much as rebound repeatedly from the earth at explosive velocity. Its feet are partially non-retractable. Unlike other big cats, the cheetah's claws do not fully withdraw into sheaths. They function more like the cleats on a sprinting shoe, biting into the ground with each stride to maximize traction and power transfer. Its tail is long and thick and functions as a dynamic counterbalance during turns, shifting mass rapidly to counteract rotational forces and prevent the animal from rolling when it cuts hard in pursuit. Its face is also a weapon. The dark tear marks running from the inner corner of each eye down toward the mouth are not mere patterning. They reduce glare in the same way football players use black grease beneath their eyes. They allow the cheetah to track prey clearly, even when hunting in the direction of direct sunlight, which is when prey animals most often move, in the early morning and late afternoon, when the light comes low and bright across the grassland. And then there is the trip, because the cheetah does not kill the way other big cats kill. Lions kill with a suffocating bite to the throat. Leopards bite the back of the skull. Jaguars crush the cranium. A cheetah, because of its lightweight skull and relatively modest jaw strength compared to other large felids, cannot afford to go directly for a killing bite until the prey is already down. So it trips. At the moment of contact, the cheetah reaches forward with one or both forepaws and uses a technique sometimes called a dew claw hook, driving its large, semi-fixed dew claw into the hide of the prey animal's flank or hind leg and pulling it off balance. Sometimes this tripping happens with the chest or shoulder at full collision speed. The prey animal, already at high speed, is suddenly unbalanced, stumbles, rolls, and hits the ground. And in the fraction of a second that it takes for that animal to begin scrambling to its feet, the cheetah is already repositioning its bite to the throat, clamping down not to crush the trachea immediately, but to suffocate by compressing the windpipe and the carotid arteries together. It holds, and it waits. It may hold that bite for 10 minutes or more. Its panting continues through its nose, while its mouth maintains its grip. The prey animal, oxygen deprived, loses consciousness, and it is over. This entire sequence, from the launch to the kill, is one of the most precisely calibrated predation systems in the natural world. Nothing about it is improvised. Every element of it has been refined over millions of years to work as efficiently as possible on prey that will run. Because that is the point. The cheetah's entire system is calibrated for prey that runs, for prey whose instinct is flight. Running is what the cheetah has built itself to handle. Running is what the cheetah has anticipated, what it has prepared for, what it performs best against. The cheetah evolved alongside the gazelles of the African savanna, and the gazelles evolved alongside the cheetah. This is a co-evolutionary arms race that has been running for millions of years, and both animals have been shaped by it. The gazelle got faster. The cheetah got faster in return. The gazelle developed better turning capability. The cheetah developed its dynamic tail and its flexible spine in response. And the gazelle developed the stotting behavior, that bizarre repeated vertical jumping, those high bounding leaps that seem almost theatrical when you first see them, as a form of honest signaling to the cheetah. A gazelle that stots is saying, in the clearest possible biological language, I am fit, I am healthy, I am not the one you want. Catch me if you can. And the cheetah, reading that signal, often does give up and select a different target. Because a cheetah that launches after a fit, healthy gazelle that is already stotting is a cheetah that is probably going to spend 10 or 15 seconds of explosive effort and come away with nothing but a dangerous body temperature. This evolutionary dialogue between predator and prey is one of the most extraordinary conversations in the living world, and it demonstrates something profound. Running from a cheetah is not just the wrong tactical response in the moment. It is playing into a game whose rules were written around the assumption that you would run. Now let us bring this into the human experience. Because humans have actually encountered cheetahs, and there is a body of practical knowledge that has emerged from those encounters, mostly from wildlife rangers, researchers, and field guides who have spent decades working in cheetah territory. A cheetah is, relative to its size, not an especially aggressive animal toward humans. It is not a lion, it is not a leopard, it does not have the jaw strength, the body mass, or the territorial aggression of those animals. An adult male cheetah weighs somewhere between 40 and 65 kilograms. A large male human weighs more than that, and the cheetah knows this. It has evolved to assess risk with extraordinary precision, because an injury to a cheetah, a broken leg, a torn claw, a sprained shoulder, is a potential death sentence. An animal that cannot run cannot hunt. An animal that cannot hunt starves, so the cheetah carries an innate caution about engaging in anything that might cause injury. It tests, it assesses, it probes. This is why so many recorded cheetah encounters with humans in the wild follow a similar pattern. The cheetah approaches slowly, curiosity overcoming caution, reads the human's body language carefully, looks for signs of weakness or panic, and then makes a decision. If the human stands its ground, maintains eye contact, does not flee, and preferably makes itself appear large and makes noise, the cheetah in the vast majority of cases does not attack. It stops. It watches. It may circle, and eventually it loses interest and moves away. If the human runs, the cheetah's predation instinct can be triggered, not necessarily because it was planning to attack, but because movement away from a predator at speed triggers an involuntary pursuit reflex that is hardwired into the cheetah's nervous system. The fleeing signal is so deeply integrated into its predatory behavior that it can override the learned assessment that a human is a risky target. Running tells the cheetah that something has made a decision it is prey, and the cheetah's body responds before its reasoning can catch up. This is the flee response becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. You run because you are afraid. You are afraid because you think running will save you. But the running itself increases the danger you are running from. Wildlife guides in regions where cheetahs are present give consistent advice. Never run. Turn to face the animal. Stand up straight. Make yourself appear large. Make noise, either voice or by striking objects together. Do not crouch down, which makes you appear smaller and more vulnerable. Do not look away, because breaking eye contact signals submission and disengagement, both of which can embolden approach. And importantly, do not make sudden, dramatic movements that might be misread as the erratic bolting of prey. Maintain slow, deliberate posture that communicates neither submission nor aggression. The underlying principle is the same one that governs the gazelle's stotting. You are communicating information to the predator. You are either communicating that you are viable prey, which is what running says, or you are communicating that you are not worth the risk, which is what standing your ground says. The cheetah, like all predators, is constantly performing a cost-benefit analysis. Energy expended versus energy gained. Risk of injury versus probability of a successful kill. Time spent versus opportunity cost. You are not making that calculation for the cheetah. The cheetah is making it, but you can influence the inputs. A cheetah that is uncertain of its assessment does not attack. Uncertainty is your ally. Confidence is your defense. Because if the cheetah is not certain, it will not spend its irreplaceable energy reserves on a gamble. And you want to be a gamble. But let us go deeper still. Let us talk about what the cheetah actually is in evolutionary time, because that context changes how we understand everything about it. The cheetah, Acinonyx jubatus, does not sit neatly within the typical big cat family groupings. For a long time, its taxonomy was genuinely puzzling to scientists. It shares some characteristics with small cats, some with large cats, and several features that are entirely unique to itself. Genetic analysis has revealed that the cheetah's lineage diverged from other felids approximately 5 to 8 million years ago, with its nearest living relative being the puma, Puma concolor, of the Americas. Not the lion, not the leopard, the puma. This relationship reflects an ancient dispersal event in which the ancestors of modern cheetahs spread from North America into Africa and Asia during periods when land connections or low sea levels permitted migration. What the fossil record also tells us is that cheetahs were once enormously more diverse and widespread. The genus Acinonyx once included multiple species. There was a giant cheetah, Acinonyx pardonensis, that lived in Europe during the Pleistocene and was significantly larger than the modern animal, perhaps more like a leopard in size. There were cheetah-like felids in North America. There were multiple species in Asia. The modern cheetah is the last survivor of what was once a diverse and globally distributed family of long-legged, swift, open-country hunters. And the modern cheetah itself came extraordinarily close to extinction relatively recently. Genetic studies have revealed that the cheetah passed through a severe population bottleneck approximately 10 to 12,000 years ago, during the same period of megafauna extinction at the end of the Pleistocene that wiped out woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, and dozens of other large species. The cheetah population crashed to such low numbers that today all living cheetahs are genetically almost identical. Their heterozygosity, the genetic diversity measured across their genome, is so low that skin grafts between unrelated cheetahs show little to no immune rejection response. In immunological terms, they are so similar to each other that their bodies cannot distinguish self from non-self in a normal way. This is the kind of genetic uniformity you see in laboratory strains of mice that have been inbred for dozens of generations. In wild animals, it is almost unprecedented. The consequence is that cheetahs are highly vulnerable to disease and environmental change. Epidemics spread through cheetah populations with frightening ease because there is no genetic variation to provide natural resistance. Reproductive rates are lower than they should be, with high cub mortality and various fertility issues that are likely linked to the consequences of the bottleneck. The modern cheetah is essentially a species that, at the genetic level, barely survived. It is running on an extremely narrow genetic margin, and yet for those 12,000 years since the bottleneck, it has persisted. It has maintained its extraordinary speed, its precise hunting strategy, its finely tuned neurology, even on the edge of genetic collapse. Today, the cheetah faces pressures that no period of evolutionary adaptation could have prepared it for. Habitat loss as the African savanna is parceled and fenced and converted to agriculture. Human-wildlife conflict in which cheetahs predating livestock are killed in retaliation. The illegal pet trade, which removes cubs from the wild in large numbers, particularly from East African populations supplying demand in Gulf states, where cheetahs are a status symbol. And crucially, prey-based depletion as the ungulate populations that cheetahs depend on are hunted or displaced. The world's wild cheetah population is estimated at somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 individuals. For context, there are more tigers in captivity in the United States alone than there are wild cheetahs on the planet. The cheetah's range has contracted to roughly 9% of its historical extent. In Asia, where the Asiatic cheetah, Acinonyx jubatus venaticus, once ranged from the Arabian Peninsula to India, only a tiny remnant population survives in the central deserts of Iran, estimated at somewhere between 12 and 40 individuals. They are effectively functionally extinct across the entire Asian range they once occupied. The cheetah is, in a very real and measurable sense, disappearing. The animal that has perfected the physics of speed over millions of years, that has become so specialized that it has carved out an ecological niche no other predator occupies in quite the same way, is losing ground to forces that have nothing to do with speed. And there is something about that contrast that is almost unbearably poignant. An animal that can cover ground at 112 kilometers per hour cannot outrun a fence. It cannot outrun a camera trap that leads a retaliating farmer to its den. It cannot outrun the dynamics of a global illegal wildlife trade. For all its extraordinary physical capability, the cheetah is not fast enough to escape the consequences of sharing a planet with us. Now let us talk about what cheetahs actually do when they are not hunting. Because the hunting is the part we focus on, and it misrepresents the totality of the animal's life in important ways. Cheetahs are, in behavioral terms, remarkably unlike our stereotypes of apex predators. They are not dominant. They do not occupy the top of the ecological hierarchy in the way that lions do. They are consistently displaced by lions, leopards, hyenas, wild dogs, and even large groups of vultures from kills they have made themselves. They avoid confrontation instinctively and consistently. A group of hyenas approaching a cheetah on a fresh kill will cause the cheetah to retreat almost immediately, even when it is still panting and overheated. The calculus is simple. The risk of injury from fighting a hyena, which is a massively more powerful animal in terms of bite force and physical strength, outweighs the value of the kill. The cheetah leaves. It will hunt again. Male cheetahs are unusual among felids in forming stable coalitions. These are almost always coalitions of brothers, males from the same litter, who remain together for life after separating from their mother at around 18 months. These coalitions, typically of 2 or 3 males, hold territories and cooperate in hunting larger prey. A coalition of cheetah brothers can take down prey significantly larger than any single cheetah could manage, including young wildebeest and even young topi or congoni. They are more successful hunters, hold better territories, and survive longer than solitary males. Female cheetahs, in contrast, are almost entirely solitary, except when raising cubs. The raising of cubs is one of the most demanding and perilous undertakings in the mammal world. A female cheetah raising cubs cannot afford to be displaced from a kill, because she cannot simply go without food for an extended period while nursing. She moves her cubs constantly, sometimes every few days, to prevent the scent from building up and attracting predators. Lion cubs are killed and eaten by hyenas and other lions. Cheetah cubs are killed by lions, leopards, hyenas, wild dogs, and even martial eagles and other large raptors. Mortality in the first few months of life is catastrophic. Studies in the Serengeti have found that more than 90% of cheetah cubs die before independence, the majority killed by lions. A female cheetah with 3 or 4 cubs may raise none of them to adulthood in a landscape with a high lion density. This is why cheetahs at the population level are already struggling to maintain numbers, even without additional human pressures. The natural mortality rate is so high that the species can only sustain itself where there is adequate prey and sufficient space for females to raise cubs away from the crushing pressure of lion predation. Remove enough of either resource, and the population begins to decline, slowly at first, then rapidly. Cubs that do survive learn to hunt through a prolonged and carefully structured apprenticeship. A cheetah mother will begin bringing live prey to her cubs when they are around 3 months old. Injured or captured prey is released, and the cubs are encouraged to chase and eventually catch it themselves. What they are learning during this period is not speed. They were born with speed built in. What they are learning is technique, the reading of prey behavior, the timing of the launch, the geometry of the intercept, the mechanics of the trip, and the bite. Without this learning period, the cubs cannot hunt effectively as adults. Orphan cheetah cubs raised in captivity, who are released without this education, cannot survive in the wild. They are fast, they are strong, but they do not know how to use what they have. This is one of the most important insights the cheetah offers us about the relationship between innate capability and learned skill. The cheetah is the fastest land animal on Earth, and that speed alone is not sufficient to survive. Without knowledge, without the learned behavior that connects raw capability to effective application, the speed is wasted. A cheetah that does not know how to read a gazelle's gait, that does not understand the geometry of the intercept, that launches at the wrong moment or from the wrong angle, will fail. And failure costs energy it cannot afford to spend. So when we talk about why running from a cheetah is exactly what it wants you to do, we are talking about something deeper than a simple predator-prey chase dynamic. We are talking about a system. We are talking about an animal that has built its entire existence around triggering, managing, and exploiting the flight response of other animals. The cheetah does not just run fast. It creates the conditions in which its prey will run in ways the cheetah can control. It stalks from the right angle to channel the prey toward open ground. It times the launch to maximize surprise. It selects the target that is most likely to run and least likely to turn effectively. It anticipates the direction of flight before the prey has even made the decision to flee. The whole apparatus of the cheetah, its body, its vision, its strategy, its patience, is oriented around one simple assumption: you will run. And that assumption, in the overwhelming majority of cases, is correct. The moment you run, you have confirmed everything the cheetah believed about you. You have validated its risk assessment. You have given it the directional information it needs to calculate an intercept. You have reduced the ambiguity that is your only real defense, and you have activated a pursuit reflex in an animal that has refined that reflex over 8 million years of evolutionary pressure. The gazelle runs because it must. It has no other option. Its whole body is built around running and turning, and the contest between the cheetah's speed and the gazelle's turning is genuinely competitive in a way that keeps both species sharp. But you are not a gazelle. You cannot match the gazelle's turning speed. You cannot sustain the gazelle's lateral acceleration. You do not have the gazelle's biological hardwiring that makes the running itself a partially effective defense. If you run like a gazelle, you will do it worse. If you run like a human, you will simply be a slow, predictable, straight-line target that is giving the cheetah exactly what it is designed to receive. This is why the counterintuitive instruction, the stand still, face it, hold your ground instruction, is not brave and foolish, but actually rational and evidence-based. Not because you are physically dominant over a cheetah. You are not. But because you are introducing variables the cheetah has not evolved to process efficiently. A prey animal that does not run is an anomaly. An anomaly is a risk. A risk is something that might cause injury. Injury is something a cheetah cannot afford. And so the calculus shifts. You are not winning by being strong. You are winning by being uncertain. You are winning by making the cheetah do math it has not been fully equipped to solve. There is, of course, a broader lesson in all of this. One that goes beyond the specific situation of a human facing a cheetah on the African savanna, which is an encounter that the vast majority of people will never have. The lesson is about understanding systems deeply enough to see where the expected response is itself the trap. The cheetah's prey runs. The cheetah evolved to exploit the running. The running confirms the prey's vulnerability, and the prey keeps running, because it has no understanding of the system it is inside. It only feels the fear. Understanding the system, understanding the cheetah's physiology, its thermal limitations, its cost-benefit analysis, its evolutionary calibration for flight-triggering prey, gives you the ability to step outside that loop. Not because you become fearless, but because the information changes what fear should be pointing you toward. The fear is correct. The cheetah is dangerous, but the information says that the danger is not made smaller by running, it is made larger. And the response that feels the most courageous, which is standing still, is actually the response most likely to resolve the situation without violence. The cheetah is extraordinary. It is perhaps the most aesthetically perfect predator the natural world has ever produced. There is something almost agonizingly beautiful about watching one at full sprint. The fluid arching extension of that spine, the impossible lightness of those feet at their contact with the ground, the focused intensity of its gaze locked on a target at 50 meters. It is a piece of engineering that no human technology has yet replicated, in a form that runs, breathes, and hunts under its own biological power. And it is disappearing. Not because it is failing at what it does, it is still the fastest land animal on Earth. Its hunting technique is still as precise as it has ever been. Its cubs are still being taught to read the flicker of a gazelle's ears and the shift of weight in its hindquarters that signals an imminent turn. But the world around it is changing faster than 8 million years of refinement can adapt to. The savanna is shrinking, the prey is thinning, the territories are being divided and sold and fenced. We stand at a moment when the choice of what survives is being made, not by the pressures of predation and competition that drove evolution for millions of years, but by the much cruder and less elegant pressures of land use decisions, poverty, wildlife policy, consumer demand, and international law. The cheetah's speed means nothing against those forces. What means something is understanding. Understanding what the cheetah actually is, not the simplified version in the nature documentary clip, but the full complexity of the animal, its physiology, its evolutionary history, its ecological role, its current precarity. Understanding creates the conditions for better decisions about how we share space with it, and understanding also means recognizing that for all the cheetah's extraordinary capability, it needs something from us that it cannot run fast enough to earn. It needs us to decide it is worth keeping. The male coalition resting on a termite mound at dusk, their flanks still heaving from the afternoon's hunt, their heads turning slowly together as they scan the grassland one more time before the light fails, has no idea that its survival depends on a set of decisions being made in offices and conference rooms and agricultural policy meetings on the other side of the world. It only knows the grass, and the wind, and the smell of prey somewhere in the fading light. It is ready. It is always ready. It was built to be ready. Whether the world is ready to keep it is a different question entirely. The cheetah wants you to run. Every fiber of its extraordinary body is calibrated for that moment of flight. Every element of its strategy is pointed toward triggering it, and then exploiting it with a precision that 8 million years of pressure have made nearly perfect. But knowledge is the thing that runs faster than fear. And now you know why the pause, the stillness, the deliberate refusal to do what every screaming instinct demands is not weakness. It is the only rational response to one of the most perfectly designed predation systems the natural world has ever created. Stand your ground, make yourself large, Hold its gaze, and let the cheetah discover that you are the one variable its otherwise flawless system was not built to handle. Because in the end, that is the most important lesson this animal teaches. The most dangerous thing you can do in the face of a system designed to exploit your instincts is to follow your instincts without questioning them. The cheetah has been perfecting that exploitation for 8 million years. The only counter is understanding. And understanding, unlike top speed, is something we actually have a chance of keeping up with.